Well, hello there. Would you like to have a story? This is one of my favorites. It's a story that my grandfather used to read to me when I was little, and now I get to share it with you. It's one of the Just So stories by Rudyard Kipling, and this book is illustrated by Nicholas. The author wrote these stories for his daughter, whom he always called his best beloved, and he always wanted the stories to be read just so. So we'll try to read them just so. This is the story of how the whale got his throat. In the sea, once upon a time, O my best beloved, there was a whale. And he ate fishes. He ate the starfish, and the garfish, and the crab, and the dab, and the plaice, and the dace, and the skate, and his mate, and the mackerel, and the pickerel, and the really, truly, twirly, whirly eel. All the fishes he could find in all the sea he ate with his mouth. So, till at last there was only one small fish left in all the sea, and he was a small 'stute fish, and he swam a little behind the whale's right ear, so as to be out of harm's way. And then the whale stood up on his tail, and he said, "I'm hungry." And the small 'stute fish said in a small 'stute voice, "Noble and generous cetacean, have you ever tasted man?" "No," said the whale. "What is it like?" "Oh, nice," said the small 'stute fish. "Nice, but nubbly." "Then fetch me some," said the whale, and he made the sea froth up with his tail. "One at a time is quite enough," said the 'stute fish. "If you swim to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, that's magic, you will find, sitting on a raft in the middle of the sea, with nothing on but a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders." "You must not forget the suspenders, best beloved." "And a jackknife, one shipwrecked mariner who, it is only fair to tell you, is a man of infinite resource and sagacity." So the whale swam and swam to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, as far as he could swim, and on a raft in the middle of the sea, with nothing to wear except a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders — you must particularly remember the suspenders, best beloved — and a jackknife. He found one single solitary shipwrecked mariner trailing his toes in the water. He had his mommy's leave to paddle, or else he never would have done it, because he was a man of infinite resource and sagacity. Then the whale opened his mouth back and back and back till it nearly touched his tail, and he swallowed the shipwrecked mariner, and the raft he was sitting on, and his blue canvas breeches, and the suspenders, which you must not forget, best beloved, and the jackknife. He swallowed them all down into his warm, dark inside cupboards, and then he smacked his lips, so, and turned round 3 times on his tail. But as soon as the mariner, who was a man of infinite resource and sagacity, found himself truly inside the whale's warm, dark inside cupboards, he stumped, and he jumped, and he thumped, and he bumped, and he pranced, and he danced, and he banged, and he clanged, and he hit, and he bit, and he leaped, and he creeped, and he prowled, and he howled, and he hopped, and he dropped, and he cried, and he sighed, and he crawled, and he bawled, and he stepped, and he leapt, and he danced hornpipes where he shouldn't, and the whale felt most unhappy indeed. Have you forgotten the suspenders? I hope not. So he said to the 'stute fish, "This man is very nubbly, and besides he's making me hiccup. What shall I do?" "Tell him to come out," said the 'stute fish. So the whale called down his own throat to the shipwrecked mariner, "Come out and behave yourself. You're giving me the hiccups. Nay, nay, said the mariner, not so, but far otherwise. Take me to my natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion, and I'll think about it. And he began to dance more than ever. You'd better take him home, said the 'stute fish to the whale. I ought to have warned you that he is a man of infinite resource and sagacity. So the whale swam and swam and swam with both flippers and his tail as hard as he could for the hiccups, and at last he saw the mariner's natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion, and he rushed halfway up the beach, and he opened his mouth wide and wide and wide, and he said, "Change here for Winchester, Ashalot, Keene, and the stations on the Fitchburg Road." And just as he said Fitch, the mariner walked out of his mouth. But while the whale had been swimming, the mariner, who was indeed a person of infinite resource and sagacity, had taken his jackknife and cut up the raft into little square grating, all running crisscross, and he had tied it firm with his suspenders. Now you know why you were not to forget the suspenders. He dragged that grating good and tight into the whale's throat, and there it stuck. And then he recited the following sloka, which, as you have not heard it, I will now proceed to relate. By means of a grating, I have stopped your eating. For the mariner, it was also an Hibernian. And he stepped out onto the shingle and went home to his mother, who had given him leave to trail his toes in the water, and he married and lived happily ever afterward, and so did the whale. But from that day on, the grating in his throat, which he could neither cough up nor swallow down, prevented him from eating anything except very, very small fish. And that is the reason why whales nowadays never eat men or boys or little girls. The small 'stute fish went and hid himself in the mud under the door-sills of the equator. He was afraid the whale might be angry with him. And the sailor took his jackknife home. He was wearing the blue canvas breeches when he walked out on the shingle. The suspenders, though, were left behind, you see, to tie the grating with. And so that is the end of that tale. Isn't that a nice story? I thought so too.